Hello, welcome to Tarot and Attachment. My name is Erin Smith. I am a professional tarot reader and an associate marriage and family therapist. And this is the week ahead reading for February 17th through the 23rd. We're just coming off of a full moon, and let's take a look at what energies, circumstances are coalescing, what would be helpful for us to know, or what insight we can derive from this reading in order to help us navigate life circumstances as they're unfolding in the week ahead. So I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to go silent and concentrate while I shuffle, and I will be with you momentarily. I'm going to say a prayer over these cards. Wow. Wow. It's such a sweet message, especially in light of it, wow, of being, Valentine's Day. We are on the other side of Valentine's Day. That was yesterday, February 14th. I'm doing this reading on Saturday, the 15th. And there's a lot of cup energy coming up here. So, my Valentine's reading, in some ways, we're sort of focusing on uh, characteristics or attachment behaviors that stand in the way of our being able to connect to ourselves or to others. What happens when we internalize a sense of intimacy, partnership, uh, vulnerability as not being safe, and what kind of protective measures do we take then to insulate ourselves and make sure that we aren't battered or bruised by life. And it's interesting because this is very much a reading around what it looks and feels like to be open-hearted, to uh, affiliate ourselves with people who celebrate us, who make us not only feel safe, but seen, understood, um, that that we experience ourselves through them as a source of great delight. The Three of Cups is being in communion with others, allowing ourselves to be celebrated and supported emotionally, and experiencing this great joy, the joy of connection, the joy of communion. The Three of Cups is being in the celebration of life, specifically with people who uh, uh, uphold us, usher us through times of distress, and hold us up in a joyful and celebratory way. I sort of associate the Three of Cups as you go where the love is. You surround yourself with people and situations that acknowledge your gifts and hold them in high regard and are open-hearted and overt in their expressions of joy and affection towards you. It's and in order to have this, it's like we are being called to open up to new possibilities. Pages represent new beginnings, new opportunities, and new people. And they're childlike. I spent a lot of time talking about what happens when, as children, we don't get our needs met in a good enough way. And that so much of the work that needs to be done in order for us to, first of all, orient ourselves or be attracted to people in our adult relationships who are capable of celebrating us, that in order to do that, in order to have a new experience within adult relationships, it behooves us to tend to our inner child, to give that part of ourselves that was betrayed and battered by life the experience of being safe, being nurtured. Uh, all children use their caregivers as a safe base, that when they feel that they're going to be comforted and soothed if anything should go wrong, they are suddenly capable of going out and exploring the environment that they're in. Again, knowing full well that if anything should go awry, that they are able to return to that safe base and receive the comfort and soothing that will bring them back into a state of regulation. And so that quality or that sensation that gets developed in us as children who are tended to in a good enough way is that we have the confidence to go out and explore the world. And we aren't devastated if things should go awry, that we're able to be flexible and pivot and return to the people and situations that hold us up, that give us a sense of our own worth and well-being. And so this idea of like cultivating an inner child who is both open-minded and open-hearted. Swords being the suit of thoughts, ideas, communication, and cups being the suit of love, emotions, intuition. This ability to be emotionally vulnerable and expressive, to show our authentic selves to others, to feel safe enough to do that. And the ability to keep an open mind, to trust that there are infinite possibilities that might be achieved, to not have this limited scope of possibilities based on old experiences, but to cast a wide net, to imagine that there are ways of being or doing or expressing that may not be the most obvious, but trusting the process, allowing yourself to explore with open curiosity in order to receive some kind of new insight or new way of thinking or expressing that brings us into a new experience in terms of our relationships, right? So this idea that it is possible to nurture the inner child, and in doing so, it gives us a new perspective on what is possible in our adult relationships. And then we are called to show up and take action based on this open heart, this feeling of trusting that we can intuitively know who a safe person is, that we can intuitively gauge who is going to be there for us and show up for us in ways that feel good. To trust that we can make a start, that we can formulate new relationships, and that there's this possibility for connection. Knights are questers. They're seeking to fulfill a goal, and they will not stop until they've achieved that goal. So they're action oriented. Knights represent the actions that we take out in the world. And because we live in a world of cause and effect, there is an outcome that is the result of the actions that we take. And in this case, the actions that we take when we are leading with a true and open heart, where we're willing to risk being seen as our authentic selves rather than performing some persona that I think I have to be in order to get my needs met in relationships. When I'm just willing to be who I actually am and be seen in that way, the promise is that that is how I'm going to attract a partnership that is balanced, where there is an equal expression of giving and receiving, where my willingness to show my true self is met by my partner's willingness to show their true self. And that our tolerance for big emotions allows us to be in the presence of even difficult emotions, right? If I am doing my own inner work, and I'm building affect tolerance so I can stay present even with uncomfortable emotion. And I'm able to offer that part of me that's suffering, compassion, and understanding. When I can do that for myself, then I can be in the presence of another person who is also experiencing distress, and I don't have to turn away. I'm able to meet their intense emotional experience with compassion and understanding as well. And then there's this incredible healing result that comes when we are able to accurately mirror one another, when we are able to tolerate the things within ourselves that we find distasteful or shameful, and that we're able to express that vulnerability and have somebody stay, have somebody say, I understand. That what I've come to understand is that when we suffer from relational wounds, specifically wounding that happens in early childhood, that this is not something that we can recover from all on our own. That when the wound is relational, the medicine must be relational as well. Of course, the difficulty is that if you're raised in a household of abuse or neglect, whether it's emotional or physical neglect, we have a tendency then to attract partners who echo a similar sensibility. So if you become accustomed to being ignored in childhood, chances are you're going to attract a partner who also ignores you. It's sort of the deep injustice of the way humans are hardwired in terms of attachment. But the good news is this, that attachment strategies change and move over time depending on circumstances. So you can move your attachment strategy towards earned security. It is absolutely possible. And it's like a feedback loop. So if you're in an attach or in a relationship with somebody who is secure or has earned security, it's going to move you closer to security as well. And again, so much of this is about learning to recognize your patterns, learning to recognize how certain coping mechanisms that were developed under less than desirable circumstances are maybe not the most skillful or effective way of coming into this kind of equal balanced partnership, and becoming aware of those tendencies and trusting that we can move beyond them, that what wasn't safe in childhood can actually become safe in adulthood when we are practicing discernment and choosing wisely who our partners are, who our friends are, who our community is, that it is possible to come into the experience of reciprocity within relationships. Um, the Seven of Wands is saying that we are here now, and that the struggles that we have had to come through, the difficulties that we've had to surmount, have shaped who we are and have caused us to be resilient and strong. In some ways, I associate the Seven of Wands with a kind of hypervigilance. The warrior in us that has come through our battles well is on guard. It's constantly ready to fight in order to protect against any threatening forces. But what the Seven of Wands wants us to know is that we are safe. Right here, right now, we are safe to make different choices, to make new decisions about how we choose to move through the world. It isn't us against the world anymore. It's us being supported by the world. And if we were to operate out of this sense of safety and stability, what choices might we make now, regardless of where we've come from? This is what we're being called to bring some attention to. And we're being asked to commit to people and organizations and situations that are life affirming, that we are attracted to, that feed our life force energy rather than detract from it. We are being asked to show up and commit with consistency, and that commitment will stabilize and support us over time. This is, in fact, the marriage card. It's a beautiful representation of what happens when we find a person or an objective that feeds our soul, and we show up consistently for that person, for that goal. The promise is that it will create this stable, balanced foundation that will allow for this experience of unconditional love. The Six of Cups is like loving before you've ever had your heart broken. It's loving with an unguarded heart. And this is the image and the feeling of what it's like to love without reservation, to trust that when you give of yourself completely and authentically, you will be cared for. in a sweet and loving way. This is what I wish for each and every one of us. And if this is the message that we're being called to carry into this coming week, then I'll take it. I am wishing all of you so much love. Take care.